Yes, we are back in the Superflex streets making this off their Superflex Sunday. If you want more of these Superflex drafts on Sundays, you just got to let me know, because this is by far one of my favorite contests, one of my favorite formats across all of best ball each and every year. This is, of course, the FFPC Superflex contest, $35 entry, max of $150 if your pockets are flush. But what matters is $100,000 up top. Second prize, $10,000. So we are not shooting for any of these poxy min cashes. We are not worried about fifth place, which is $3,000. We are just shooting for first place overall. I know we've got a bunch of you guys in the draft who will be joining along in the chat tonight, so do let us know. I will be drafting out of the 5 slot, which kind of puts us in the range ADP over here as the draft is getting underway right now. Josh Allen is the first in ADP. Then you've got Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, Jamar Chase, and then Jalen Hurts is kind of where we are picking from. Now, we do have Michael Heary, who is drafting out of the 1 slot. I know he has put himself down as 6th of July to make it harder for you to decipher. But we've got Michael at that end, and then we've got Deft at the 11 spot. Who else is in here? I know there's a few other people. Hey, Green Bean, appreciate you dropping by. Good evening, Rich. Long time. So, yes, anybody unfamiliar with this format, it is Superflex tight end premium, which really opens up a bunch of different ways that you can build in this contest, which is one of the reasons why I love it so much. So, on FFPC, normally in single QB format, it's not unusual to see your elite tight end really pushed quite highly. This year, we're not seeing Bowers in Superflex go in the first half of drafts, but we will see him go towards the back end. The starting roster, it's 1 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, and then 2 flex, 1 which is a normal flex, which is running back, wide receiver, or tight end, and then 1 which is for Superflex. And of course, Superflex matters so much over here. So we're going to cover that. We're going to talk a lot. Jordan drafting out of the 8 spot. Good to see you again, sir. Bijan Robinson going off the board at the 2 spot is a little bit of a shock, but man, the Bijan hype, it's just steadily going. I believe Bijan is now close, if he hasn't already, to passing Saquon Barkley over on Underdog, but here on FFPC, they love their running backs too. So Josh Allen does go, and then Jaden Daniels putting us on the clock with a clear kind of choice of whether we want to go with the quarterbacks or go with Jamar Chase. Look, I know my co-host Rich isn't the biggest Jalen Hurts fan, but I think when you're talking about a guy who gets double-digit touchdowns every year, I'm happy making that bet. I've been quite outspoken about the idea that I don't really love Saquon Barkley coming off the insane amount of touches that he had last year. So if I'm going to hedge against Saquon Barkley a little bit, not as much as last year, then I kind of have to be in on Jalen Hurts. If we're going to say that we think that Saquon Barkley could get hurt, then surely it makes sense to be going, okay, well, Jalen Hurts then probably is a slightly better value if he's going to have to pass more. If the defense regresses, and we know year to year that defense isn't overly sticky, then of course. Yeah, Michael's saying second day in a row I've seen Bijan go to. Yeah, same. I'm up to, I think this is draft 10 for me now in this contest, and I've definitely started to see a bit more of him creeping in there. So it seems less unusual than it was not too long ago. We just do this. Brock Bowers going at the 6th spot then, so ahead of Jamar Chase, ahead of Justin Jefferson. That feels maybe a tad rich for me. I don't know. How about you guys in the chat? Would you be willing to take Brock Bowers in this tight end premium format? Shout out No Cap Mac. Appreciate you hanging in. Obviously, coming off one of the best tight end seasons of all time. Like we talk about it as like one of the clearly the best rookie tight end season of all time. But there were only 2 tight ends who saw more targets than Brock Bowers did last year ever, and it was Evan Ingram and Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, I think he had 153 a few years back. So maybe Brock Bowers can continue to ascend, and maybe the value of those targets is even better. Maybe he gets into the end zone more. Like, I don't know. My question to you in the chat, if you're taking Brock Bowers in the first round. This is something we've been talking about in the Fantasy Sanctuary Discord lately, because we're co-drafting one of these and leaving it up to the general consensus to vote on and figure it out. Well, we took Brock Bowers. I think we had him at the 109? Is that where we pick him? If you're picking Brock Bowers in round 1, how many tight ends are you leaving the draft with? Because I struggle in this 20-round format still to not end up at least 3, because the win rate data suggests so much that taking 3 is by far better than 2, and taking 4 still turns out to be so much better. Like last year, tight end 4 builds where they waited to take their tight end 2 until after round 6 was 9.7% win rate compared to like 8.3. And honestly, like bully tight end was a strategy that won over here last year. It was a 16.7% win rate, which is twice the expected win rate of 8.3%. Now in 2023, that was 0%. The year before that, it was 16.7% as well in 2022. So obviously not a consistent strategy, but like, the power of these 2 elite tight ends can really go a long way. I mean, I had a team in the 350 FantasyPros redraft contest last year where I had Brock Bowers and Trey McBride, and that absolutely carried me, and will be paying for drafts for a little bit longer, to say the least. Michael saying I think I would still go 3 to 4 depending on how it falls. Jordan saying 2 if I have Bowers. Yeah, maybe Brock a middle and 2 late. Yeah, that's definitely the kind of the crux of our argument then, isn't it? It's like, where do you take those? Like, do you go Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta, and then stick there? Like, Jordan, is that like the kind of 2 you're hitting? Are you looking for that second one to be reasonably early, or are you still kind of going, I need to be waiting even later than that for your second one? Deft, who drafts plenty over here, probably 3 in this format, later upside options. Because the flip side of this is we're 2 years in a row, 3 years in a row where we've seen late round tight end crush, to the point where on a lot of best ball platforms, if you dig into the data, 4 tight end builds were almost optimal last year. So now you're not going to get Sam Laporta or Trey McBride or those kind of guys every year, but if you can get those guys who make a substantial difference towards the back end, then it definitely can be worth it. Since our pick, only 2 quarterbacks go off the board: Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. Not really interested in another one of them. The guys at the top of ADP here are Christian McCaffrey, Ashton Genty, Derrick Henry, Devin Achan, Baker Mayfield, then down to the likes of Nico Collins, Bo Nix, Drake London. So plenty of guys who are fun. I haven't taken much Christian McCaffrey. I've been kind of slightly concerned about that. But here, Christian McCaffrey, his ADP is now up to 14.9, 3 spots ahead of Ashton Genty. The wide receivers, I don't know. I mean, if this was Underdog, I'd probably be leaning towards a guy like Nico Collins, but maybe this is time to get some Christian McCaffrey exposure. I always think of it a little bit that if you faded a guy, then it's never too late to get back in. I've got no problem with that. But also, if you take them in slightly higher cost drafts, then it can work out as well. So we'll do that here. Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Hurts, that feels fine. I'm all right with that. Let's see. Just try and increase the size of screen, give you guys a little bit of a better view. That's diabolical. We'll go back. There we go. If anyone can't see that, then grab your binoculars. So if you're in here, let me know how many of these you guys are up to currently, kind of what your aim is. I would like to hit 30 in this contest. Obviously, it's so top heavy that even if you hit 30, you're kind of counting on a top prize. I mean, if you draft 30 of these, just a little over 1K, then the only way to make any money is to finish inside the top 12, which I was lucky enough to do 2 years ago. But it's a big contest. It's not easy to do that. Obviously, over here on FFPC, the advance rates are quite friendly, and the amount you can pick up along the way is good. But yeah, I would like to at least hit 30 to build a nice portfolio. I think the tight end combo was difficult because you had 2 years of Kelsey gradually declining regular season and genuine late breakouts. I don't know if there are any late round bets as good as Laporte, McBride, and Bowers have been. I mean, yeah, obviously Bowers last year was incredible. And I've got a video, I don't know, it's probably going to be up on Wednesday or Thursday, looking at rookie tight end production and then kind of talking about, well, for 2 years in a row, we've looked at rookie tight ends and we've completely undervalued them. We completely undervalued Sam Laporta, and we completely undervalued Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers in particular, we absolutely should have seen it coming. And people were so ghosted and so spooked by the idea of Brock Bowers looking a little bit scrawny, stood next to Gronk. Obviously, he didn't do anything because of the hamstring injury, so he didn't do any of the testing. So we didn't get to see that side of it. But Brock Bowers at Georgia was an absolute beast. So getting him where we got him last year was incredible. But I kind of wonder whether Colson Loveland, who, if he was fully healthy, would probably be getting a little bit more hype, or a guy like Tyler Warren. Like, if Daniel Jones starts all year, are we undervaluing these guys? Maybe Mason Taylor or Ronda Gadsden or guys later like Harold Fannin, a little bit more of a dart throw and possibly not where we want to be putting extreme exposure. But I think there's definitely tight ends who can play up to a high level. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about sort of top 3 status, but I'm not saying I don't think that we're going to see one land near the top 5. This is a great point. Yeah, I do think Warren, to be fair, is tainted by Colts tight end rumors and mess. Like, that is true until it isn't. And that's such a big thing in fantasy football. Something's true until it isn't. And hedging against that and saying Tyler Warren, which all the beat reporters are raving about him, saying that he's involved in everything, all over the place, catching loads, and has been excellent. So, yeah, there's real potential for him there. AJ Brown goes 1 pick before us, which, look, that's disappointing. Peanut Punch, you know what you did. Leaving me a choice of Kyler Murray, Jonathan Taylor, Lad McConkey, George Kittle. George Kittle here as the tight end premium feels like the smash pick and just gives us that Niners correlation with CMC. So happy to take that. That feels very nice to me. We saw Michael on the turn go Lamar Jackson, Drake London, Derrick Henry. I love pairing Lamar with Derrick Henry. Now, look, obviously, you know what you're getting from me with the Ravens bias. There's always going to be a little bit of that. But I think with Lamar or with Jalen Hurts, like, if you can stack them with the elite running back, then it gives you that potential to kind of just say, I'm getting all the touchdowns. And in week-to-week tournament formats, I'm very much okay with that. QB conversation. Where do you guys like taking your second quarterback in these? I have had a complete range of them. Obviously, in the Sanctuary Co-Draft, we took Patrick Mahomes in the second round, and then it's trying to avoid ending up with Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson as your QB3. There comes a time for pretty much everyone where you have to weigh whether you need that in your life. But the win rates, they really don't look favorably on teams that go QB heavy early on. So, like last year, if you took your quarterback 3 by the time you got to round 6, you had a 6% win rate compared to 8.3 on average. In 2023, that was down at 4%. 2022, that was down at 3.5%. Whereas if you are going with a 4 quarterback build and you wait for your third quarterback till after round 6, that rate is 10% in 2022, 8.6 in 2023, and 9.3% last year. So I really do want to push them a little bit further at times. This from Rich is such a good point because Tyler Warren has the potential to be kind of Taysom Hill light. And in this tight end video, which by this point I've probably talked about it far more than anything else that I've gotten around to putting out, I brought on Andrew from FantasyPros, who I do the FantasyPros Best Ball show with on a Monday, and he's very high on Tyler Warren, and I thought it was good because I'm higher on Colson Loveland, and he gave us great kind of back and forth where he talked about how he thinks that Tyler Warren could be used around the goal line because the Colts have had so much experience with their quarterbacks getting injured that instead, well, give it to the guy who's played Wildcat and who's been very good around there. So maybe we do see a little bit of that. And look at tight end. I mean, the year Sam Laporta was incredible as a rookie, he had 9 touchdowns. Nobody else that year scored more than 6. Last year, Mark Andrews hit double digits, but like you're talking about 7, 8 touchdowns. It's not like the wide receiver position where you kind of need to be hitting 15 or so to really separate. Here, it's like, score 6 touchdowns as a tight end, and you were probably flirting with fringe tight end 1 status. Michael saying, I really wanted to go Henry Bucky at that turn, but whilst arguing myself timed out on Drake London, I did see the little asterisks and wondered whether, a child had disturbed you or something. Yes, on real time. RBs are king. I very much enjoyed your pushback on the Typhel Tower the other day to the Is Zero RB dead. Really interested what are the win rates for 2 QB teams. Oh, that is a great question. Let me pull that sort of stuff up and we'll come back to it in a couple of minutes. Because that's not something I've done too much. Last year with Colm, I mean, I've drafted a bunch with Colm, I've wrote his overtime, and Colm's much more comfortable pushing the quarterback position than I tend to be. And it doesn't always work out. And sometimes I really hated the teams we built, but sometimes it does give you a lot of upside. Shout out for Fantasy Football Garage. Appreciate you. You streaming tonight, man? If so, let the people know in the chat what time and when. Speaking of which, big guest tomorrow. The millionaire himself, Pat Crane, will be joining myself and Tyler. We'll be drafting in BBM, hoping for a little bit of Crane's experience winning millions of dollars to rub off on us, because me and Tyler, whilst we like to feel like we know ball, we have not won millions of dollars. Okay, so 1 pick away. The team at the 6th spot, Brock Bowers, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, takes Kyron Williams. So that leaves us Jared Goff, Breece Hall, CJ Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill, Trevor Lawrence. I don't want to take another quarterback here. There's a team with 2 QBs already. So it's either Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Tyreek Hill. I don't really have a massively strong lean out of any of these guys, to be honest. Let's see what the room could give us. 20 seconds. We have plenty of time. Let's throw in Tyreek Hill and bet on the Dolphins' defense being absolutely atrocious, which is a take I found myself repeating a little bit more often lately. It's like, name a Dolphins cornerback who isn't Storm Duck, who we all only know because of a funny name. 10 p.m. Eastern to do some BBM 6 for Fantasy Football Garage. Make sure you check it out. I believe you're closing in on a good subscriber goal. And make sure that people, if you like best ball, you should be absolutely subscribed over there. Guilherme? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize if not. Been doing a few 2 QB fields, but my only fear is injury. Other than that, I love the upside. Yeah, so we'll get past this turn, and then we'll spend a little time talking about 2 QB builds, because it's definitely viable, looking at some of the numbers. I think, Guilherme, tell us, is that 2 elites that you're kind of going with, or is that kind of 2 early ones, or are you just saying in general that you're happy taking 2 QBs and maxing out there? Because we have seen a lot of kind of later round QBs over the last few years be really good. Obviously Bo Nix, we saw Geno Smith year. We've seen others. I mean, Sam Darnold this time last year. Sam Darnold probably wasn't getting drafted in this format in Superflex he was, but not in regular best ball. Smart guy. Hit the like button if you haven't already, please, guys. Really does help us out. It's that time of year where there's a lot going on out there. We truly appreciate your support and truly appreciate the likes and the views. What else have we got going on the channel? If you are a YouTube member, which Chris is, he's got that little symbol next to him. Rich will be live on the channel in a couple of days' time doing Dynasty roster reviews. Rich, obviously, one of the smartest people out there when it comes to Dynasty. So if you want him to review your roster and tell you where you could turn it into a championship roster for 2025, make sure you drop him a DM. I know he says that he's probably got enough already, but I'm sure that he will. I'm sure he'll make exceptions. So Michael's on the turn, takes Devontae Adams. Nice, like that. Could easily see him taking another quarterback here. Looking at the draft room, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, both there, but he goes with Amari Hampton instead. Then Kenneth Walker, team out of the 2 slot, going full high T with the running backs. Very robust build with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence after that. Jared Goff really starting to fall, had an ADP of 40, and now we're kind of all the way down here into the 50s. JJ McCarthy coming up, Jordan Love. Feels like this isn't as QB hungry of a room as some. Back on the clock for us, Jared Goff does go. I'm not in any desperate need of running back. This is the running back zone where you're looking at basically James Cook. There's not really anyone else there. Wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin. So let's go with JSN, full PPR. I like the idea that the Seahawks are going to be quite play action heavy this year. Greg Roman offenses quite often end up being quite play action heavy. We know that they not Greg Roman. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is obviously Mike McDonald comes from Baltimore where they had a big hand in play action, and it sounds like he wants to make it run heavy. And if you run heavy, then that opens up play action, and then that feels like an area where Jackson Smith and Jigba could win plenty. Thoughts on Darnold this year? Yeah, I'm just kind of fine, whatever. I'm not massively high on Darnold. I think he did enough that he has the job, and I don't think that we see him lose the job too quickly. So let's talk QB2. So the QB2 build in 2021 had a win rate of 10.7%. But more importantly, at the top 2 percentile teams, they made up 4% of them, which is quite a high number. Then in 2022, the top 2 percentile teams of these was 1%, win rate only 8%. 2023, 8.4, top 2 percentile, 1.6. Last year, 7.6 and a 0.7 top 2 percentile, which kind of makes sense. Last year wasn't really a great year for double elites because out of the top 6 quarterbacks, you had Anthony Richardson, Patrick Mahomes, and CJ Stroud, who all shit the bed. So it was only really if you were doubling up on Lamar, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, which I'd like to say would have been impossible. I don't know for sure. Now, obviously, then it becomes kind of like, when did you take your QB2? So if you took your QB2 in 2021, after round 3, 9%. Last year, 2022, 12%. So yeah, that was leading into the late rounds. So, I mean, look, year to year, this matters so much on the QB landscape. So it's judging and hitting on those breakouts, isn't it? Like if you really think you've got Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, and one of them ascends to be a top 5 and the other ascends to be a top 8, then maybe you can get away with it. Joe Burrow, Michael Penix, like our team out of the 9 spot. Can you get by if Michael Penix is QB 10? Maybe. I mean, again, we talked about the point Michael brought up of something is something until it's not. Well, Michael Penix is sneaky athletic. He just doesn't run because he's had so many injuries. So, like, what if Michael Penix gets to the NFL and eventually just decides it's time to start running? I think, that's an interesting hypothetical that we could talk about. Both one of Lamar and Allen and middle round QBs is good enough, but I also end up with teams that only have 2 middle round QBs. I do think QB is sometimes overvalued in Superflex. I think in Superflex Dynasty or regular, then yeah, absolutely. I think in Superflex Time Premium, that's where, the Time Premium can make such a difference. And in this format where FFPC drafters tend to be a little bit running back hungry, then there are just so many different ways to build. It's very rare that you see any 2 drafts the same. Let's say I'm 10 drafts in on this contest, and I feel like every single one I do is completely different. So James Cook going off the board in the 6th round there. Anybody in on James Cook? Anybody scooping the value? Because, I mean, he is going to rise in value if he gets any kind of contract extension. Maybe he gets kind of fugazi contract extension where it's not really a massive deal, but it's just kind of enough to get him into training camp and in for a year, and then maybe after a year or 2 they reevaluate. Michael saying should have taken Penix. Yeah, it's been a pretty hefty QB run since Michael at the turn of a 101 went with Devontae Adams, Marion Hampton. Michael, how many quarterbacks do you think is this for 2 QB build? Do you think you can get away with just one more? We've got most teams are at 2 QBs now. There's only myself with 1 and then Michael with 1. Everybody else is at 2. So you kind of have to think that by the time we get into the back end of round 7, most teams are going to be hitting their 3rd, and it is going to start looking like, okay, who ends up with Daniel Jones? Who ends up with Anthony Richardson? And who's taking a shot on the Browns quarterbacks and trying to force some kind of Frankenstein monster together? It's DJ Moore. DJ Moore was somebody that in our Fantasy Sanctuary co-draft in the Discord really fell a lot, but people just were not interested in him. Mike Evans goes 1 slot before me for the Baker Mayfield drafter for that stack. I will be doing something that's a little bit disgusting here, but I will be drafting Tua Tagovailoa. I think it makes too much sense with Tyreek Hill if we're saying we're going to see a lot of pass attempts. And Tua, for what it's worth, in the games he was healthy last year, ranked 3rd in pass attempts per game. I'm okay making that bet. See what else falls our way. Obviously, Darren Waller starting to jump up in price in ADP. I know over on Underdog, he's kind of hitting that sort of, round 15, round 16 range now. Gino goes off. So it was the first team with 3 quarterbacks. Michael, undoubtedly here, looking down the quarterback barrel. He has Cam Ward and Sam Darnold, Aaron Rodgers, and then it gets late real early. But choosing whether you want to double tap the quarterback room it's tricky. I think I would be trying to make sure I came away with 1 here, and then you can make an argument that it's time to start looking towards the tight ends. Travis Kelce, Evan Ingram. They're all kind of in this range. When you pick on the turn, it can be a little bit tricky to say that you don't want one. Michael goes with Tet first. Nice wide receiver room, though. Drake London, Devontae Adams, and Tet. Particularly with that running back room as well. I think that's a good team. So, yeah, my team through 6 rounds: Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Tua. No complaints. I think it works. Michael does take Cam Ward, and then this team at the 2 slot. Let's talk about the team at the 2 slot. Bijan Robinson, Devin Achan, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, Trevion Henderson. On real time, is that you drafting over here? The running back renaissance is in full flow. Like, that is absolute beauty if you like that kind of thing. So I've got my 2 wide receivers, running back. I was hoping a little bit that James Conner would fall to me, but since he doesn't, I'm going to maybe make the bet that hasn't always paid out, but I'm going to take Sam Darnold to stack with JSN, and I won't be taking another quarterback now. That feels completely locked down. That I don't have to worry about the Daniel Jones tier. I don't have to worry about Anthony Richardson. I don't have to worry about taking shots on will Shedeur Sanders make any meaningful contributions this year on the field. And I'm okay with that. I think we're a little behind at running back, but with George Kittle at tight end as well, I feel pretty good. Okay. Hey, I mean, look, last year was the year that we all should have been drafting Robust RB, and it was only being drafted at 2.4% or something like that on Underdog. And that was the year we should have been because win rate levels were ridiculous. So I'm not going to grief anyone for it. And hey, I think, if you listen to Pat Kerrane, he's talked about how he feels so much more confident in what he can get in around 10 to 12 range at wide receiver compared to normal. And that's in single quarterbacks. So in Superflex, this drafter, I mean, they've got to stop surely now. They need to basically spend the last 12 rounds just hitting wide receiver, tight end. I think you could say you could go 7 wide receivers and 4 tight ends and then maybe another quarterback. But it's Tyler joining us in the chat. Good evening, sir. Good afternoon in Texas. Tyler, thoughts on the team out of a 2 slot? Bijan Robinson, Devin Achane, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, and Trevion Henderson. Whereas I threw 7 rounds, Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tua, and Sam Darnold. Feels fun. Jalen Waddle goes on the turn. There was definitely a big piece of me that had thought about taking Jalen Waddle for the double stack when I took Sam Darnold. Kind of hoped he might have made it back to us. But look, it's not to be. We'll live with it. Things could be worse indeed. I don't know, John. I mean, I'm really intrigued to see how he kind of rounds this one out. Jordan drafting out the 8 slot with Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Brock Purdy, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, DJ Moore, Travis Kelce. It's a fun one. Travis Kelce feels like this is the right format for him. Like, if you're going to make a bet on him, assume that he's going to see really good volume and assume that he's going to peak as the season goes on. No need for the piss. The Diami Brown hype is loud indeed. Let's see. So just cycling back to the James Cook conversation. Don't know what running back Cook would pass. Think he's in the tier of Hampton, Walker, and Irving. So, yeah, currently you see James Cook went right down here in the 6th round. I could see him passing Josh Jacobs if he got a new contract. I think James Cook offers that kind of explosivity. Now, he wasn't the most explosive, but I think that people remember the big plays from James Cook. And the touchdowns definitely masked it quite a lot. But I think we could see him getting up to there. Back to me, little tight end room, Mark Andrews, Aaron Rodgers, then Evan Ingram. 2 teams doubling up on the tight ends in this range. Our choices: Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, Calvin Ridley, Caleb Johnson, Chris Godwin, David Njoku. I don't dislike much of this. Like, I think these are all kind of fine players. Tyler, you mentioned it in the Discord earlier that maybe we should be taking Aaron Jones as a PPR scam. I quite like him here, but I'm going to veer away from it, and I'm going to go with David Montgomery just think I've got a little more faith in David Montgomery throughout the season than I do Aaron Jones. And of course, like most people talking best ball at this time of year, I quite like Jordan Mason at his price. Now I am in a situation where my computer looks like it's running low on batteries, so might need a hop, skip, and a jump away at some point. Oh my god. SFT-L, Bijan Robinson, Devin Achan, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon, Trevion Henderson, Aaron Jones. I mean, maybe you're saying that your quarterback 2 isn't good enough to start in the Superflex spot every week because you start 2 running backs and then you start a flex, which is a running back, wide receiver, or tight end, and then a Superflex, which is potentially all of those plus a QB. But we are like, let's just let's have a look. First wide receiver after round 9. See, historically, if we've ever had good rates for that. So, wide receiver 1 after round 8. We'll go back as far as 2020 on RotoViz's data, and 7% in 2020, 4% in 2021, 7% in 2022, 3% in 2023. Guys, 11.1% in 2024. This guy, he just took his first wide receiver in Chris Godwin. So if Chris Godwin is actually healthy, and hey, I mean, Christ, 11%. That's what, like, over 3% more. Like, hey, maybe this is the pioneer that we all should aspire to. When Sean Siegel wrote about like 0 RB, people didn't want to hear it, but it turned out okay. Sometimes you've got to get different in order to do it. And I mean, even Sean, if you heard the latest episode from RotoViz, they were talking this week about the ongoing conversations around 0 RB. And in that, Sean Siegel talked about how he wasn't sure that this would be the year to do 0 RB. So, yeah. Who knows? We're on the clock. I did not spot that whilst talking. So, quickly. Jordan Addison, Jonnu Smith, Juwan Jennings. We could lean into that Niners correlation. Let's go with Jordan Addison. No. Didn't get there. That was disappointing. Okay, guys, you got to tell me when I'm talking too much in future. Jerry Jeudy, not the worst thing in the world. I mean, obviously, last year he was great. There's very little competition there, but this is the plus EV of drafting against those damn streamers, huh? Yeah. This is the most robust. There has never been a more robust team out there. Absolutely. Tyler saying rookie RBs aren't nearly as strong as we'd have liked is likely why, in my opinion, especially for landing spots. Well, I get what you're saying there, but also this is the kind of time of year where I want to draft the rookie running backs, and I want to draft them because we're seeing, I think Hayden tweeted about this earlier, that most of the rookie, like I think it was 15 of the top 20 rookie ADP fallers in the last month are rookies. Sorry, in ADP fallers, not rookie ADP fallers. And this time of year, so post-draft, we see them pushed up because everybody's hyped for them. And then we get past OTAs where people are talking about, well, we need to learn this, we need to learn that. And then we get into summer camp, and then the highlights hit like a bolt to the head. and they start getting pushed up again. So I'm okay taking shots at them. Now, obviously, you've got to be careful with this. You want to be looking at the Coach Speak Index Discord. You want to be paying attention to what's being written in The Athletic and what the beat reporters are saying. But I'm okay making bets this time of year. Like, this is the time of year where we start making our stands. Multiple personnel feels good for Judy, but the splits for Tillman are telling. Yeah, and I really like Cedric Tillman as well. So kind of okay. I mean, look, I would have preferred to have gotten Jordan Addison there, but it could have been worse. That's what happened. What happened there was unplugging my second screen to start charging my laptop there, and then it went to crap. Kraft would have been a good shout as well. I definitely like him. We are going to have to start thinking about tight end 2 soon. Just one through 9 rounds, whereas you see teams out of the 6th spot and the 8th spot both making sure they hit in this range. Something which talked about a little bit recently, that I just kind of feel like this could be the range of the draft where we see league winners come from this year. Like, there's such a glut of quarterbacks, there's such a glut of tight ends, that if you find the right combination of, say, a quarterback and a tight end, or a quarterback 2 tight ends, then it could be very, very good for your teams. And, you know, this is the area of the draft last year I called the running back glory hole, and it turned out to be a bit of a wet fart because the guys at the top of the board did so well. But there's plenty of good candidates. I'm not ruling out going back to the well on this and milking a little bit more likes from that range, but we'll see. So yeah, Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones both go off the board. If you're still waiting at this point, you're down to pretty much Jackson Dart, Russell Wilson. The remaining quarterbacks are Russell Wilson, Tyler Shough, Jackson Dart, Joe Flacco, Jalen Milroe, Shedeur Sanders, Kirk Cousins. I am not drafting Tyler Shough. Anybody here drafting Tyler Shough? I kind of really struggle with him. I just think that the Saints' offensive line is so bad. And maybe I should be drafting more Tyler Shough, because Kellen Moore, for how many years we've seen him be one of the fastest offensive coordinators in the league. It's been something that's been quite consistent and been quite good for fantasy purposes. I'm coming around on Dalton Kincaid a little bit. Feel the need to confess that here. Tyler did not want to draft Dalton Kincaid on one of the teams we're slow drafting together at the minute. But look, we had Josh Allen. It made sense. I just think Dalton Kincaid, again, is one of those kind of players that needs a little touchdown variance and needs to start playing in the red zone more often, needs to start playing in play action a little bit more. But Dawson Knox, he's not been terribly impressive. Oh, you know, all I wanted was Tyler Warren to fall back to me there. And then Jake Ferguson goes as well. That's not cool, guys. Not cool at all. So the top tight end in ADP is Jonnu Smith, followed by Deebo Samuel, Khalil Shakir, Ricky Pearsall, Jaden Reed, Stephen Diggs, Jordan Mason, Russell Wilson. Tyler Warren, man. 4 tight end build in the middle rounds. That's fun. I like that. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren. Jordan Mason goes. I'm just going to look, guys. Just be cool. So I'm going to bring up Colston Loveland and take Colston Loveland here as my tie in 2 with George Kittle. I just think Colston Loveland does absolutely everything that we want from an NFL tight end. And I mean, when he gets out there in training camp relatively early, the team were always aware of their 6-month timeline from shoulder surgery, then it is going to be electric. And you could say rookie tight ends don't necessarily deliver in a massive way, but as I mentioned before, I think that for the last couple of years, we've seen real difference makers at the tight end position come out and be undervalued. I think that with Luther Burden injured, with DJ Moore not exactly getting the most glowing reports from camp or even delivering them himself. I look at the Bears offense and I don't see who the natural touchdown scorers are. And Colson Loveland could just do it all as a tight end. So if he's out there, if he can take enough of the job away from Cole Kmet early, then I think that he can be a guy who has some real upside. Jordan out of the Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews took a Kraft Tyler Warren spot, saying, I hope 4 tight ends pays off. I think that can. And particularly if you're stuck at 2 QBs, and there were points here where by the time that you made your Mark Andrews selection, it was Mark Andrews versus Aaron Rodgers. That's the conversation there, isn't it? It's like try to decide who can give you more. And I don't hate the decision that you went with there. So kind of getting round to my slot, 2 picks away. Johnny Smith, Ricky Pearsall, Stephon Diggs, Russell Wilson, Tyron Tracy, Javonte Williams, Josh Downs, Matthew Golden, Najee Harris, all in this range. We only have the 2 running backs in Christian McCaffrey, David Montgomery. Got the 3 wide receivers in Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Jerry Jeudy. So there's not really a particular position that I feel forced to head towards. Tyron Tracy is somebody that I would have considered here. We're 1 pick away now. Guy out of a 2 slot added Dallas Goedert as their first tight end and Cooper Kupp as their second wide receiver. I mean, Chris Godwin, Dallas Goedert, and Cooper Kupp. This is a fantastic receiving room in another year. Let's take Josh Downs. I love Josh Downs. I know that as a fashionable take, but when you went back and you looked at the splits and you looked at the kind of way that he won and the way that he earned targets last year, it was so elite on a number of levels that it's kind of hard to contextualize because the quarterback play was so terrible last year. And my bet has been all along that we're going to see more Daniel Jones and we're going to see Anthony Richardson. Now, Downs, he had a stronger target share than Pittman last year, 24% to 24.2, sorry, 24.8 to 24.2. But he also had a better catch rate. He also beat Pittman in yards per route run, 2.2 to 1.7. There were only 15 wide receivers who had a higher yards per route run last year among those who had 50 or more catches. And among those 15, 13 of them finished as top 24 wide receivers. That's the ability level that we get from Josh Downs. We just haven't seen even functional quarterback play enough to get us there. Yeah. Def to say. Yeah, I mean, hey, Cam Scotterbo made sense as well. Obviously, you just had Jahmyr Gibbs, so taking that running back 2 in round 10. I can understand that one. I wondered whether you might have. On real time, good rookie Titans with clear path to targets have always shine. It's not about the position, it's about the opportunity. Well, this is a big part of it because it's you try to decipher, and I've looked at the last 25 years of data, try to work out whether there is a certain stat that produces rookie tight end 1 seasons, and it's not touchdowns, it's not target share, it's not hitting certain thresholds of receptions or anything like that. It's not necessarily even draft capital. It just comes down to talent and situation, which I get can lead to a lot of difficulty in projecting them and saying, can this work out? Can it not work out? What's the risk involved? But I'm comfortable saying on these guys who are really good players coming out that I'm willing to take that bet. Now, obviously, this is where people will say we went wrong on Kyle Pitts, but Kyle Pitts was tight end 5 in his rookie season, had one of the best rookie tight end seasons in 60 years. And yes, since then, he's become meme worthy and it's gotten worse and worse. But aside from the touchdowns, which climbed from 1 to 2, 3 to 4. So five touchdowns this year, bucket. But yeah, I'm perfectly happy with it. Trey McBride, if he hadn't been cock blocked by Zach Ertz in his rookie season, what could he have given us? I think we all know that it could have been something pretty good. Whereas Colson Loveland, I don't know. Are we saying Cole Kmet is capable of blocking him? Maybe. I've never been a Cole Kmet fan, so I'm quite biased there and probably not the best person to weigh in on that one. Then outside of that, you're looking at Tyler Warren, Jelani Woods, who was a 3rd-round pick when he came out, hasn't really done a lot. I believe Mo Alley Cox is still there, which kind of blows my mind. I'm sure we've probably got a couple others, but I don't think that there's anyone capable of it. And we also saw the Colts, one of these transparent teams where it was widely known before the draft that they wanted a tight end, and they went out and got one. Hugh Ames, appreciate you, dude. Hope you're having a lovely long holiday weekend. Same to all you Americans. I'll say it's not fashionable, but enjoy your holiday. Yeah, exactly that. Like, we give so many excuses to players involved in the Arthur Smith offense, but Kyle Pitts just doesn't seem to get it because he was drafted so high that people seem to expect him to have been able to overcome it. I'm sorry, like, I don't want to be the Kyle Pitts guy. Like, that has not worked out well for many people. Believe me, for this video I did, I trolled some old Kyle Pitts tweets from people saying to take him at 101 in Superflex Dynasty startups. Did not work out for them. But where he's going, I kind of find it hard to not have some level of intrigue. A little bit of a running back run happens, which is a little annoying for me because Tajay Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Najee Harris, and Baishal Tootin, all guys I would have liked. Kyle Pitts, the man himself, goes off the board, followed by Michael Pittman. We are back up. Javonte Williams, Emeka Egbuka, J.K. Dobbins, Keon Coleman, Ramondre, Brandon Ayuk, Hunter Henry. We got to go running back here. David Montgomery, Christian McCaffrey as our only. I think that with this room that we can afford to swing for a little bit of upside on J.K. Dobbins and hope that he is more capable this year of keeping it going. Like, these guys coming back from serious injuries, we've seen over time that they can add a little bit more juice as they go. Like, full healthy offseason for J.K. Dobbins. It's a rarity. Yeah, I can definitely get that, particularly if there's any kind of tight end bonus or anything. So very much the running back zone where we're going to see a bunch of them go here. Quarterback is completely dried up now. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any quarterbacks for a few rounds. Joe Flacco, Jalen Milroe, Shadur Sanders, Kirk Cousins, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett, Spencer Rattler, Jameis, Joe Milton. You guys who are drafting in these and drafting a bunch of these, which of those guys are your late round choices? I'm not touching the position now with Jalen Hurts, Tua, and Sam Darnold. I feel fine. My team through 12 picks: Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Tua, Sam Darnold, David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, Colston Loveland, Josh Downs, J.K. Dobbins. So the priorities for me with the rest of this draft, probably no more than 6 wide receivers. I think we're looking at least 3 tight ends, if not 4. And then the running back room is a 6 or a 7 build. I've done a couple of these where I end up at 3-7, 7-3, and I think that works. No qualms with that. Michael Lads, Isaiah Likely, and Mike Gesicki as his tight end room. So he's probably looking towards a 4 tight end build, I would guess, but still building that wide receiver room out nicely. With 2 picks to lose. Javonte Williams continues to slide. He has an ADP of 125. What we at? We're at a pick 146, and he's still on the board. Brenton Strange goes. I do not like Javonte Williams. I have not drafted Javonte Williams very often at all. It's like, do you want Javonte Williams or Trey Benson? Ugh. I don't know, man. Like a running back room with J.K. Dobbins and Javonte Williams just feels a little too dusty. Let's shoot for upside and take Trey Benson. I don't know. I feel like there's probably got to be some people out there with heavy Javonte Williams exposure. Anybody in the chat drafting him a lot? Like, I struggle to see the upside. He wasn't particularly good last year behind a good offensive line in a scheme that really should have benefited him. Couldn't separate from the other Broncos running backs. I mean, nobody was particularly great for that Broncos offense. But yeah, I think, as C-Money says, more Sanders. Who am saying I took Javonte once in March. Yeah, I think if you've got a 0 RB build, maybe taking Javonte makes some sense, because you can say, I've not taken a running back, and now I'm in the range where Javonte goes, and he can get me some guaranteed touches. He can be the guy that helps carry me before this big range of rookie running backs that I'm going to take shots on. But here, as my RB4, I would like to go for a little more upside than Trey Benson. Obviously, we've got Christian McCaffrey. We've got David Montgomery. Those are our touches guys. Those are the guys who should be giving us goal line equity. J.K. Dobbins should be giving us goal line equity. So we're not looking for that. We are looking for fun. Yeah. Nobody in here tonight liking Javonte Williams, which is why he continues to fall. I mean, Javonte Williams versus Austin Eckler probably starts to become a conversation. I find myself a little more in on Austin Eckler this year than I was last year. Last year, I, through 300-400 drafts, didn't take Austin Eckler more than once. But every year there's those kind of players where somebody smart convinces you otherwise. And this year that was JJ Zacharyson, who was talking about how much he weighs running back receptions. The stats he pulled on Austin Eckler were good enough that I thought, you know what, like, if I want to bet on the Commanders' offense taking another step, they didn't do anything at the running back position, then I kind of have to be willing to take a little bit of Austin Eckler. Javonte Williams does finally go, about 30 picks past ADP, followed by Ray Davis, Zach Ertz. The tight end situation is going to start getting bleak. We have Pat Freiermuth, obviously falling in ADP. K. Dotton, Chiga Okonkwo, Mason Taylor, Dalton Schultz, Juwan Johnson, Jatavian Sanders. So it's still a range where double tapping tight end room kind of makes sense. We've got 6 more picks to go. Deft out of the 11 slot with Jahmyr Gibbs, Malik Neighbors, Justin Herbert, Drake May, Sam Laporta, Terry McLaurin, Zay Flowers, George Pickens, Daniel Jones, Cam Scadabo, Stephon Diggs, Tajay Spears, Zach Ertz. That feels like a very fun team. No complaints about that one. Yeah, Def saying bull case for Javonte is lack of rational coaching from the Cowboys. That's definitely there. I think, like, last year, though, they clearly wanted it to be Zeke, didn't they? They were desperate for it to be a Zeke Elliott running back room, and they just eventually had to give up on that because he was so incredibly washed, and they turned it over to Rico at that point. And then instead of re-signing Rico, who probably would have taken a fairly reasonable deal, I believe he got paid the same from the Panthers that he did from that the Cowboys gave to Javonte. They opted for Javonte, and I have to believe it's just they believe in the name power more than Rico, who was always a bit of, okay, yeah, it's Rico. So lack of rational coaching from the Cowboys is definitely something. Maybe Javonte Williams just sees into the sun really good. Maybe they have a test that they do to work out which players can run towards the sun in a glaring manner and perform well. because that is definitely something that they should be doing. Trey Harris goes off the board. Cedric Tillman. Trey Harris stacked for depth with Justin Herbert. Back to J-Mac, who had that 4 tight end build. Only had Josh Jacobs before he went on that kind of sea of purple. But since then, Bashal 2 and Austin Eckler, Jalen Wright, like that running back room. I think that there's plenty of upside there, as well as PPR goodness in Austin Eckler. Couple of picks away from us. So to recap, Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, JSN, Tua Sam Darnold, David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy as that all pick. Ugh. Colston Loveland, Josh Downs, J.K. Dobbins, and Trey Benson. So again, probably leaning towards trying to find some upside here or looking at the tight end position because we are not done there. Roshan Johnson is top on running back. Tyler Algier, Tank Bigsby behind him. Jacquez Hunter down after that. We've got Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver, who has fallen 17 spots at ADP. We could keep building out that kind of Niners correlation with CMC, George Kittle. Brandon Ayuk, of course, goes in the time that it took me to scroll up there. Roshan Johnson goes, of course. So we're left with Pat Fryermuth, Rashad Bateman, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Cade Otton, Marvin Mims, Tank Bigsby, and Tyler Algier. And that's where I'm going with Tyler Algier, because I just think that Tyler Algier is the best backup running back in the league. I think he deserves to be drafted higher, like probably heard me talk about this, but the gap between Algier and Bijan Robinson, that's the 8th biggest gap in ADP right now between the RB1 and the RB2. There are 15 RB2s being drafted before Tyler Algier. And this is a guy who finished 10th in explosive run rate in 2024. He ranked 7th in juke rate. And yes, I'm fully on board with Bijan Robinson as the RB1 overall. But I think if we're going to peg him up to that level and say we think that Bijan could be the RB1 overall, that only serves to make Tyler Algier even more important in drafts, and getting him here in the 14th round as our RB5 works for me. I mean, look, I wanted to take Bateman. I definitely wanted to take Bateman. And Michael on the turn with Lamar as his QB1 probably is going to. Imagine Tyler Algier on the Cowboys. Let's make that happen. What would it take to get Tyler Algier? I mean, he's on his rookie deal. This is year 3. Like, minimal amounts of draft capital. The Cowboys spent this on who was the terrible Panthers wide receiver they traded for last year? I can't even remember his name, but that's what they were willing. And they could go out and they could get Tyler Algier. I mean, come on. Yeah. Charbonnet, just anyone. Let's get literally anyone to the Cowboys and make something fun happen, because Dak is undervaluing me. I wanted to say Terrace Marshall, but it was one step worse than Terrace Marshall. Jonathan Mingo. Michael does take Rashad Bateman, followed by Marvin Mims. We only have 4 wide receivers. We only have 2 tight ends. Those are the positions where I think we've kind of got to come back to at this point. What we're staring down the barrel of is Chigakonkwo, Kyle Williams. Then Joe Flacco's next up in ADP, but we're not doing that. We're not messing around with no Joe Flacco. No offense, Big Joe. Back on the clock, and I'm going to take Chigakonkwo. I still believe in Chigakonkwo. I still think Chigakonkwo is a fun player and hasn't had competent quarterback play. And now as my tight end 3 in round 15, if you watched streams from me and Tyler, you know we're both expecting some kind of uptick from the Titans in general. We're expecting Cam Ward to be better than Will Levis was. So yeah, I like Chigakonkwo there. Cowboys aside. I cannot do any more Zeke Elliott on the Cowboys. Yeah, it felt like, Chig's that kind of tight end tier. So after Chig, well, Pat Fryer moves there, but obviously falling plenty. Dalton Schultz, Juwan Johnson, Jatavian Sanders, Theo Johnson, Terrace Ferguson, and then really into the dart throws. Is anybody still holding out hope for Michael Mayer to get traded? It feels like we had that moment with the Dolphins where it was like, can we really get Michael Mayer to an offense? I mean, in an offense where there's a creative play call where it really could have been good, and then it was snatched away from us because they wanted Darren Waller instead. So, I would love to see Michael Mayer get traded, but rookie contract trades, they're so cheap, rookie contracts, that it feels a little counterproductive sometimes to actually say that's what we're going to go out and do. You're almost just better off keeping the player a lot of the time, and I think that's the Raiders' mindset, particularly where they've had some turnover. Send him to the Seahawks when we drop Fan. I think there's going to be a lot of Elijah Arroyo fans in here upset with that one. Arroyo, of course, that's some reasonable coach speak. Nothing too crazy, but enough to give people hope. So, Sea Green at this point in the drafts, and we've got 5 more picks to go. At this point, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running back room, 3 wide receivers, and then 4 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, and 3 quarterbacks. So yeah, I'm going to take some more shots at wide receiver, keep shooting for upside here. One thing that I'm trying to do better at, and it's something that Hayden Winks has kind of preached continuously, is that if you go heavy wide receiver early, is being able to lay off them. Now, we didn't go too heavy. We just 2 through 5 rounds, but in previous years, in different formats, quite often I'm trying to hit certain thresholds and saying I need to be at this number before I get left behind. I don't feel like in this format I necessarily get left behind because the wide receiver rooms, we've got Hollywood Brown, who's falling past ADP, Adam Thielen, Jack Besh, Quentin Johnston, Xavier Legette, Romeo Doubs, Jalen McMillan, Joshua Palmer, Tavares Douglas, Pat Bryan. There's enough that, you hit a double dip in your next 2 picks, and all of a sudden you feel much better about your depth. Will Shipley off the board to death at the 11th spot. Somebody who beat reporters saying they expect to see a bigger role. It's kind of pinch of salt stuff because obviously Saquon hasn't been doing a huge amount in OTAs, but the Eagles were completely comfortable letting Kenneth Gainwell walk. So at bare minimum, do we see Will Shipley take the 2-minute role, those kind of hurry up pass catching downs? Yeah, it works. Michael saying, for me, the Bateman pick was a trap. I didn't need wide receiver, but did have some ADP value and the Lamar stack. Yeah, I mean, look, you had you're at 7 wide receivers. So Rashad Bateman coming off career highs in touchdowns, receiving yards, I think yards per target as well. I think wide receiver 7. That's really fun. But yeah, now you got Jarquez Hunter as your RB4. So you probably end up needing to go to 6 or 7. Only 2 tight ends could be problematic. Only 2 quarterbacks. Cam Ward as your QB2. So maybe those extra picks are just made on making sure that the floor of your team is incredibly high every week. It's just that kind of balancing act, isn't it? Hollywood Brown eventually goes. Good 30 picks past his ADP. J-Mac scooping that out of the 8 slot with a 2.554. Anyone else notice a recent update to FFPC? Very handy. Some of it probably should have gone with a little while ago. And so DJ Giddens, Dylan Sampson, both off the board. Nice upside swings, guys that I possibly would have considered. So we've got Sam Darnold, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. In terms of stacking options at this point, it's not too plentiful, really. I mean, unless you're a Nick Westbrook Akine fan or something like that, but nobody overly exciting. I'm going to take Josh Palmer ahead of a bunch of guys who are ahead in ADP. I think Josh Palmer's ADP relative to FFPC, he tends to go a bit higher on Underdog. You guys who draft regularly on Underdog, let me know if you think that's the case or not. Def saying, we think the Week 17 correlation in this format hadn't crossed my mind at all. Well, it is a smaller contest, and it's a smaller final. Obviously, if you were drafting in the DraftKings final where there's well over 1,000 people, you really have to be cognizant of the fact that you are going to need to take on a huge amount of people in that point. But there's only 78 people in the final of this contest, and just making the final gets you $500, which really isn't that much. I'm not knocking this contest. I love this contest, but it is very top heavy. So do we need the big stacks to climb all the way to the top? Do we need Week 17 correlation? It's not something I tend to prioritize in this contest as much. I think if you can fall into it, then it's beneficial, obviously. But generally speaking, I find that I'm trying to prioritize just a good build. I'm trying to prioritize structure because I think structure and good builds in this format matters so much. And then because throughout this tournament, you're looking at 2 of 12, 2 of 12, 2 of 12. That feels like the thing that I want to hit. I want to make sure that in Week 14, Week 15, Week 16, I'm one of the 2 best teams, and that can come across in a variety of ways, can't it? But if you build well, if you've got a good team, surely that's going to shine through. Joe Flacco goes off the board, 1 pick before us. That was not somebody that we were necessarily hoping for. We'll talk about upside and talk about a player who could potentially be massively undervalued. Tyler mentioned him earlier, Dynasty Brown. I believe in Travis Hunter. I believe Travis Hunter is going to be a very positive fantasy football player this year. But I also believe that Liam Cohen coming from the Bucs, where they played plenty of 3 wide receiver sets, that we could see that with Dynasty Brown. I think, it's not ridiculous to say Dynasty Brown could have really strong snap shares. And Dynasty Brown is a fine player to be taking shots on in round 17. Now, yeah, I mean, Roby or Dubs, I'm feeling probably have shown a little more, but I'm. How's everybody who's in this draft feeling about their team so far? We've got Mike on the turn of 1, 2.573. Deft with a 3.463. And then J-Mac out of the 8 slot with the 2.554. And then I have the 3.563. So I'm probably going to end up leaning towards a 3.773 unless there becomes huge value available at either running back or wide receiver position. Doesn't feel like there's anything which is a massive need right now. Miles Sanders, Kyle Monangai go off the board. Kyle Monangai is a guy, more than likely, pronounced that wrong, who seems to be picking up a little bit of steam. Co-host on FantasyPros Best Ball Show, Andrew, he really loves Monangai, so an interesting one. Jerome Ford going off the board. That's a fun one. Like, if you're betting against the rookies, maybe we see some early season volume for Jerome Ford, particularly in this build where went from Josh Jacobs early and then no running back until round 12. Tootin, Jalen Wright could very much be limited. Justice Hill, you're relying on a Derrick Henry injury, really, or big PPR weeks, which with Ravens defense potentially getting better, maybe it takes a while. So you're really looking at Austin Eckler and Josh Jacobs to carry you. So adding Jerome Ford there kind of just spells out early season stuff. Happy to make that bet. Peanut Punch, I thought I saw your name in here. Enjoying the stream from the fourth spot. Let's have a look what Peanut Punch has got. Took Joe Flacco, sitting on a 4.553. Jaden Daniels, Ashton Genty, AJ Brown, Breece Hall, Jared Goff, Geno Smith, James Conner, Calvin Ridley, Njoku, Debo, Pearsall, Ramondre Egbuka, Darren Waller, Braylon Allen, Theo Johnson, and Joe Flacco. I think that's fun. I think it's good. Jaden Daniels with Debo. Took AJ Brown, though, like Peanut Punch. Otherwise, yeah, I think it's nice. I think structurally it's nice. The running back shots taken. You've got Ramondre, Braylon Allen, James Conner, Breece Hall, Ashton Genty. There's enough in that running back room that feels fine. One pick away from us. Obviously, just looking for upside and looking for players that can really give us something different, I think. I think this is a format which can reward scrolling down. A couple of years ago, the year where I finished top 6 in this contest, I had Kyren Williams, and I don't think he was somebody that was drafted less. I think it was like less than 20% of drafts. So I'm not against that. Maybe not quite. We're in round 18, so I might push that kind of scroll down a little bit further. Team before us takes Keenan Allen. That's a nice scroll down. So the running back options aren't, they're not the best. I'm going to take Sean Tucker. I've drafted plenty of Rashad White. I've drafted plenty of Bucky Irving, but Sean Tucker showed last year that he had the ability to give us those kind of big 1 week performances, and obviously change coaching staff, all those kind of caveats. But he was fun. I think most people, myself included, kind of written him off by that point. Michael saying, love Sean Tucker. Deft saying, I have so much Taj Brooks. What's another shit? Yeah, Taj Brooks, definitely somebody who I think we could see rise a round or two before the end of drafting season. Paulino89, Dimey is a great pick right now. I posted a video of BTJ, TEH himself, Trevor Lawrence working out, clearly in the mix. I think Strange was there too. Love that. Yeah, the Jags clearly had a vision for it, and they paid him reasonable money. Michael saying my FFPC late wide receiver go-tos have been Noah Brown and Michael Wilson. I was in on Michael Wilson last year. It didn't necessarily work out, but I didn't feel like it was a bad pick. It's just the Cardinals were a little bit lackluster. So, yeah. I don't hate going back to the well on Michael Wilson whatsoever. I've definitely drafted him, particularly when it's correlated at times. Calvin Austin goes off the board, a couple of picks away. We got Quentin Johnston falling. Pick 219. His ADP is 185. Peanut Punch takes him. Jalen McMillan, Demario Douglas, Alec Pierce, Deontay Johnson, A.D. Mitchell, Tutu Atwell. What is one more Tutu Atwell share? Like, look, I mean, the Rams play 3 wide receiver sets at a really heavy rate, blah, 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 blah. You've probably all heard this. If you're drafting in this contest at this point, then you probably have heard this diatribe before. But Demarcus Robinson was great as the wide receiver 3 for the Rams. So why can't Tutu finally have a bit of a breakout now that DeMarcus Robinson's gone? One more pick to go. This has been a very fun draft. Really appreciate you guys hanging out tonight and doing this. Let me know what day is a good day for more of these, because still try to find a feat with these ones. Could do Sunday, could do Wednesdays. This time of day works perfectly for me. So Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, JSN, Tua and Sam Darnold, stacking those wide receivers up. David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, Colson Loveland, Josh Downs, J.K. Dobbins, Trey Benson, Tyler Algier, Chig, Josh Palmer, Diami Brown, Sean Tucker, and Tutu Atwell. The dregs of quarterbacks are going. Dylan Gabriel, Sam Howell. We're in the Shedeur Sanders range. Who's going to take Shedeur? Let's see. We've got a couple of 3 QB teams over here. Menino, the 9 spot. Only got 2 quarterbacks in Michael Penix, Joe Burrow. So we talked about that kind of strategy early on. Maybe they try to push that. My team sitting at a 3-6-7-3. So I kind of feel fine here. Could go running back, could go wide receiver. We'll see what falls, and we'll see how it shakes out. A little bit of a slower draft tonight. These FFPC ones with the 60-second clock, sometimes you get a room where it flies. I've had rooms where I've been done in 50 minutes, and then you get these kind of rooms where some people just milk things down a little bit. And that's okay. Nice casual Sunday. Shedeur Sanders does go off the board to a room with Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford. Shedeur Sanders, can understand that one there. Let's see. So the kind of running backs left: Ty Johnson, Isaiah Davis, Ollie Gordon, Khalil Herbert, AJ Dillon, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, Audric Estime, Phil Maffer, Kenneth Gainwell. Sheesh. Kamani Vidal. Remember him? Wide receiver: DeAndre Hopkins. Entering what, year 13? Is that right? DeAndre Hopkins, year 13, which seems absurd. Deontay Johnson, honestly, man, I like Deontay Johnson at cost. Tyler Lockett, A.D. Mitchell, Ray McLeod, Elijah Moore, Mike Williams, Andrei Yoshevich, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Amari Cooper, Alec Ayamana, Troy Franklin, Jalen Royals. There's definitely some upside here. Christian Watson going undrafted. Christian Watson was running routes and posting videos on Instagram that I'm not going to become the Christian Watson guy. But if Christian Watson could make it back, there's a chance that he could drop 4 balls in week 17. Isaac Tesla, obviously drafted highly by the Lions. So I do think there are fun names still. Trevor Etienne, somebody that really could push past Rico Dowdle potentially. Jaleel McLaughlin, if you don't believe in J.K. Dobbins, then surely Jaleel McLaughlin's worth a few shots. Last year, we had JJ and Pete Overzet on the channel talking about their favorite draft picks, and both of them picked Jaleel McLaughlin. We've got Pete coming on the channel 2 weeks' time or so. That'll be a good draft. Always a fun time with Pete. I would like to swing for some upside of running back, but it's getting pretty bleak. There is one name who I'm willing to take here. I'll keep him in the pocket for just a minute longer. It is not Louis Reese Summit. What a waste of time that whole conversation was. So Will Dissly goes off the board. We see Cole Kmet, Ben Sinnott, A.D. Mitchell, Isaiah Davis, and my last pick, Antonio Gibson. Antonio Gibson was good last year. I will die on this hill that Antonio Gibson was good. Antonio Gibson had plenty of juice. Now everybody's assuming that Trevion Henderson takes a job from Ramondre Stevenson and it's very clean cut. But what if it is a little more messy? What if the Patriots trade away Ramondre Stevenson? What if we get a situation where Ramondre gets hurt and Antonio Gibson all of a sudden is taking those high value touches? I'm okay saying that's possible, and I'm very happy to bet on that outcome. So my final roster, picking out the 5 spot: Jalen Hurts, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Tyreek Hill, JSN, Tua, Sam Darnold, David Montgomery, Jerry Jeudy, Colston Loveland, Josh Downs, J.K. Dobbins, Trey Benson, Tyler Algier, Chig Okonkwo, Joshua Palmer, Diami Brown, Sean Tucker, Tutu Atwell, and Antonio Gibson. As we get to the very last pick of the draft, Michael takes Michael Mayer for a 5 tight end build, 2675. Love it. Some really fun teams in here. Absolutely loved hanging out with you guys as we've drafted along tonight. Let me know in the comments. Hit the like button below. Let me know when you want to do more of these, because I want to find a slot which works for people. These drafts are going to be a lot of fun. We will be heading into the 125 streets in the coming weeks as well. And tomorrow night, we'll be back with Pat Crane. Make sure you check out the channel Wednesday or Thursday for this video about rookie tight ends that I've gone on and on and on and on and on about. Truly appreciate you all being here tonight. We'll catch you again